Hi there, my name is Emily Browning, and today I will be talking about diversity in sexual orientation and gender identity using Chapter 7 from Valerie Pang's Diversity and Equity in the Classroom. Over the past 75 years, we've seen an incredible growth in the diversity of individuals in many aspects of our life, including the entertainment industry. Shows such as Will and Grace, Friends, The Fosters, and Modern Family have opened up the hearts and minds of Americans and played a role in greater acceptance of the LGBT community in American society. The question remains though, how do we make our classrooms as welcoming and inclusive as our living rooms? Before we proceed, let's take a minute to refamiliarize ourselves with two common terms we use when discussing sexual and gender diversity. LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. This term may also be used to refer to people who are pansexual, asexual, or gender fluid. Queer is another broad catch-all term for individuals who don't define themselves within the confines of homosexual or heterosexual, and they don't necessarily follow those conventional gender norms, or those who are asexual. In today's society, we often tend to use both LGBT and queer synonymously. Part of this greater acceptance of queer individuals has to do with an ever-evolving understanding of human gender and sexuality. Queer people have existed as long as humans have, and have experienced a wide range of treatment based on the time period and culture they lived in. During the 1940s and 1950s, Alfred Kinsey and his wife interviewed thousands of individuals about their sexual behaviors. After conducting these interviews, Kinsey published his research in 2 books and his infamous Kinsey Report about human sexuality. His most notable finding was that sexuality is often on a spectrum, in that a few individuals are either entirely homosexual or entirely heterosexual. According to Kinsey, most of us find ourselves somewhere along this continuum and have at least some attraction to either the same or opposite sex. Nowadays, social scientists see sexual orientation as more significant than individual sex life. Similar to racial and religious groups, LGBT individuals have formed a unique culture that is rich in history. Many major cities across the United States and the world have gay neighborhoods that offer safety and support to the queer community, with resources such as LGBT bookstores and social networking outlets like gay bars and queer-affirming churches. Building on Kinsey's idea of a continuum, the American Psychological Association now encourages the use of the term queer to avoid categorizing those who may not fit into neat categories about what we expect sexual orientation to be. Gay culture can be seen in a variety of ways. According to Val's cultural model, the first level of gay culture are aspects of the community that can be readily seen and heard. Symbols such as the pride flag and the rainbow often identify queer-friendly businesses and causes. In addition, many gay cultural icons exist, from RuPaul to Elton John, Judy Garland to George Takei. These individuals are revered in the gay community for standing up for queer rights and not being afraid to show the world just how fabulous they are. The second level of interactional patterns and behaviors of gay culture. Although queer individuals have composed their own families since our country's founding, gay marriage was only made legal nationwide in 2015 with the Supreme Court ruling Orfel versus Hodges. With changing legality and religious tolerance, how the rite of marriage is practiced in the gay community has been rapidly changing as well over the past decade. The last level of culture is values. Many in the gay community hold the values of freedom and compassion dear, particularly because of the restrictions and terror that have often besieged the queer community. While it's important not to stereotype members of the gay community as automatic fans of Queen or brunch, gay culture has served as a vital lifeline for many queer youth who struggle to feel accepted in their homes and communities. Like sexual orientation, Gender identity can often be extremely complex. Gender identity refers to whether an individual defines themselves as male, female, transgender, or genderqueer. How an individual identifies their gender, as well as how they present their gender, may change over time, especially as people go through the process of coming out and experience a new safeness in expressing their gender identity. Around 1.7% of the population, roughly the same amount of people with red hair, are born intersex. That is, they have ambiguous genitalia, sexual organs, or hormonal conditions. They may have characteristics of both sexes. Additionally, individuals may be transgender. This is when a person does not identify with their biological sex assigned at birth. Although once common, medical professionals often recommend against elective procedures to quote-unquote correct the external sexual organs of infants who are born intersex. In addition, sex reassignment surgery is now available to transgender individuals in a variety of countries and is even provided by the government in countries such as Cuba and Argentina. People may also identify as gender non-binary, meaning that they don't identify as either male or female. For teachers, it's important to be aware of these terms and to not force students into binary boxes of male and female based on the sex assigned to them at birth. As educators, it's also important that we know the stages that LGBT students might go through as they go through the process of discovering their sexual identity and coming out. The first stage is identity confusion, where an individual asks themselves who they are and whether they may or may not be queer. The second stage is identity comparison, where the person seeks out other gay individuals within their community. The third stage is identity tolerance. This is when a person begins to acknowledge that they are gay, but they might not act in a way that alerts them to those around them to their sexual orientation. The fourth stage is identity acceptance. In this stage, a person may begin to slowly emerge from the closet, but may still not be fully open. In the fifth stage, identity pride, an individual becomes proud of their sexuality. The pride flag goes up and the closet doors come off and they are comfortable and confident in their sexual orientation. The last stage is identity synthesis. The fervor they experienced when they first came out has calmed down and they recognize that being gay is just one small part of who they are as a whole person. As your students go through this process, they may experience a wide range of emotions. It's so important to remain an ally during this period and to reaffirm students that they are valuable and loved no matter their sexual identity. All things have improved substantially even from when I was in middle school. LGBT students still face discrimination from their peers, and unfortunately at times, even their teachers. Studies have found that 70% of queer students have experienced some type of harassment while on campus, and over half do not feel safe at school because of their sexual orientation. Besides the immediate negative effects of bullying, this can lead to a multitude of other issues. LGBT students who experience harassment have poor attendance and grades compared to their peers. In addition, LGBT youth have higher rates of suicide than their heterosexual counterparts. Unchecked, the damage of bullying on LGBT students can be lasting, and in the worst of cases, fatal. The good news is that as teachers, we have the power to really have a meaningful impact in the fight against homophobia, particularly in our classrooms. Schools can take several steps to ensure that school is a safe space for all students, such as establishing a gay-straight alliance to promote inclusivity, enriching curriculum with queer history and issues, and creating policies that specifically target anti-LGBT bullying are all ways that schools can support queer students. Teachers can also ensure that they are not excluding students who may not adhere to gender norms by taking steps such as not sex-segregating bathroom lines, work groups, and classes. They can also remove archaic restrictions on prom attire and dress codes, and can help ensure a safe and comfortable space for queer students. I want to end with 5 steps that you can take right now to ensure that your classroom is a more welcoming and open space for all students, regardless of gender identity and sexual expression. First, look around your classroom. Many of us have pictures of important figures in U.S. history. Why not add a poster of a queer changemaker, such as Harvey Milk or James Baldwin? Second, remember what assumptions tend to make. Don't go into conversations with students assuming that they have 2 opposite-sex parents or that they're taking an opposite-sex date to prom. Next, try giving gender-neutral pronouns a spin, at least when you're first getting to know your class, and use terms such as they or y'all. This avoids the risk of misidentifying a student going through the process of uncovering their gender identity and can make them feel more included. Fourth, be strong in your lack of tolerance for homophobia and the use of gay slurs. Create a classroom policy that expressly prohibits these phrases and address them in a loving and affirming way when they are used. Last, don't be afraid to talk about LGBT issues. Be mindful of how you act when these topics are raised. Limiting dialogue or brushing off discussions of sexuality can alienate queer students and make them feel stigmatized. Remember that what you don't say can sometimes be more powerful than what you do.